Here's my review of Drop. Honestly, this is probably one of the most intense and uncomfortable movies I have watched all year. And I mean that in the best possible way. Where Drop is about a woman named Violet who goes on a blind, not necessarily a blind date. Like she's been talking with the guy, but it's her first date with this guy. First time meeting him in person. And she keeps getting these mysterious drops on her phone. That's the whole gist of it. A big part of this movie is just Violet and Henry. Like, it starts off kind of well, but she's consistently getting these weird airdrops. And where the big twist comes in, like, she gets stuff like this, and it just consistently gets more and more menacing. And they know it's someone in the restaurant. So it adds like a mystery element to it, which I think is really, really good. And throughout the whole movie, we are constantly kind of showing other people in the restaurant, trying to wonder why, who it might be, and why. And it just gets overly just like this movie was honestly like really intense. Like I remember I was watching, I was like whenever we see these new things, and like this movie is also very uncomfortable and cringy, but in a good way. So we know that she has a security camera at her house, and people are in her house, basically kidnapped her son and the babysitter, and who is her sister. And so we know, like, these are some serious stakes, and this guy, whoever is airdropping, wants her to kill her date, and it's just very intense. Also, I will say, this is a minor thing, but visually, like, the cinematography, I really liked. This is a very gorgeous looking movie. Like, of course, like, we're obviously in this beautiful skyline in, I believe it's in Chicago, so it's never really an ugly movie to look at, but that's just, like, a little thing. And, like, from some of the shots that they do, like, are really, really good in this movie. It's just a little thing, but I really appreciated it. Like I said, a big part of this movie is just you kind of being uncomfortable, where you're almost like, there are like, from these demands that this guy or girl, we don't really know in the movie till the end, but I'll get to that, where there are a lot of things where the guy or girl, this person will send a message and say, oh, move tables, order this, and do all these little things. And the whole time you're just watching, you're like, ugh. You like, because from Henry's point of view, she just kind of looks like a weirdo. And so a lot of this times, like, even though we understand why she's doing this stuff, at the same time, we're kind of like uncomfortable watching her doing this stuff because we understand that the other people around her don't know why. And it just kind of gives you that, like, awkward kind of feeling, which, like I said, it goes from awkward to genuinely frightening. One thing I think that this movie does so well is it feels like, for the most part, you really do buy into the chemistry between our characters. Like, Henry is genuinely a pretty good character, and Violet is as well. So it's interesting because not necessarily a big part of this movie, but for a part of this movie, like, you kind of just liking this, like, almost romance a little bit, like, because you have to buy into this in order to actually care. Because if you hated the guy, then you wouldn't really care as much. But it's just a very interesting movie because all the scares come from almost stuff like that we know could happen, not necessarily stuff that does. Although it is one of those movies that gets more, like, crazier as it goes on. And occasionally we are cutting back to see what's happening with Jen, Violet's sister, who's watching over her son. And of course we see how the people who are in the house, just how intense that is. And it all just adds to this, like, it makes everything feel so quick because these messages are coming in, and at a certain point, like, the guy's like, oh, you only have so much time. And I keep saying to the guy, yeah, I'm just gonna get into spoilers on. So everything spoilers from now on. Yeah, it's that guy right there, and it is one of those things like when you watch it, you could kind of know why because earlier in the movie, when she went on this blind date, um, like she thought it was this guy and then finds out that it's not, and I think that guy basically took that as a rejection, and yeah, he's a psycho, and he's still like forcibly like making her like, oh yeah, you still have to kill your date, or I will kill your son and your sister. And the whole time it's like it takes such a silly premise of in many ways because this whole movie is just in this restaurant and we're so suffocated. It's still able to feel so intense. And there are a lot of other times when throughout this movie where she gets this poison because she's forced to go to the bathroom, and then he makes her go to the bathroom, and then there's a poison there waiting for her, and she just makes her do all like that's where the uncomfortableness and awkwardness comes from before it starts getting into genuinely terrifying. And then she gets the poison, and she's about to do it, and at this point in the movie, I honestly believe she was gonna do it, like because I mean, hey, I mean her son's life is on the line and her sister, so. It completely, I don't know, I wouldn't really want to say reasonable, but understandable, I guess. And eventually, though, she does, like, last second, she, like, stops it. Because, and also, like I said, this guy, Henry, the whole time is probably just thinking that she's a nutcase. Because at certain points, he tries to leave, and then she's like, oh, no, please stay. Because, like, the guy's like, oh, if he leaves, I'm killing your son. And the whole time, you're just on the edge of your seat. Like, I will say, this is probably one of my most surprising movies of the year. Because I remember I watched the trailer for this movie, and I liked it quite a bit. But I really didn't expect it to be as intense as it was. And for the littlest things, for me to actually, like, care so much. And there are a lot of parts in this movie where you're like, you are genuinely really scared. Like, when the window breaks, when they're fighting the guy, and the glass breaks and she's falling and Henry does save her, but it's just like the whole time you're like, I don't know what's going to happen. It's just, I will say, even though this is probably as like out there as it gets in terms of the danger, what makes this movie so good, at least to me, is just how this is not like, oh, this is labeled as a thriller, and it is pretty, it actually is pretty scary because of how realistic it feels. There's never anything so grand. It's all the little things. And although I really like the scene, what makes this movie so good, at least for me, is just how it makes all of these small little things and all of this small atmosphere of just all these random people who you don't know, it makes them all suspect. It makes them all terrifying. And although I enjoy the scene, it is probably like, ironically, it's probably the least scariest scene in the movie. Because also you're just like, it is one of those times, like, things in movies where it's like, of course the main character's not going to die. Like, you just know it. And there is, like, a pretty intense fight back at the home with her sister and when she finally gets there with these guys. And, like I said, it's just intense. I was thoroughly just on the edge of my seat this whole time, wanting to know what's she going to do. Oh, is the sister going to die, maybe? And we're just constantly just like, oh, no. So yeah, I may sound like I may be overhyping this movie a little bit, but personally, I just found this, like, the whole time when I was watching this movie, I was just on the edge of my seat. I was just so, like, engaged in this story. And like I said, it's a small thing, but just the atmosphere of this movie, I really enjoyed. And just being how uncomfortable it made me, and just it had a really satisfying ending. Also, it was a really funny joke at the end, but I'm not going to spoil it. Just actually watch the movie. But yeah, I was constantly on the edge of my seat. I was constantly guessing, and it is a genuinely, it's not like a scary movie, but it is a genuine, like, okay, you're very nervous this whole time. It's scary in terms of you don't know what's going to happen. And yeah, I would definitely check out this movie. It's a very intense movie. I personally really, really enjoyed it. One of my favorites of the year.